Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brownstone. I'm your host, Dr. Michele, and you're listening to Numbers Don't Lie, where you learn to get out your feelings so you can make the best decisions for yourself, your family, and your business. Guys, I have such a treat for you. Such a treat. When I got connected to this person, I just had to share her with you. I mean, amazing, brilliant. Let me just tell you what the title of today's episode is so you know what you are in store for. Today's episode is entitled Uncovering the Secrets to TEDx Success, an interview with a top coach. Because that's what I have with me is a top coach. And she's going to share some information and share some insight with you guys about getting to that TEDx stage and sharing your brilliance with the world. Brownstone community, welcome my very special guest, Emem Washington.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here, Dr. Michele.
I'm so glad you came so I can share you with my community because you are, in fact, thebomb.com.
Well, thank you. It takes one to know one. How about that?
Good company, y'all. She got good taste, okay? So, Emem, go ahead and tell the people about yourself.
Okay. Yeah, this is always an interesting question. Just a little bit about myself. I am in a former life. I was a lawyer. I am a lawyer. I didn't give up that, I didn't give that up, except that I don't work in that space anymore. Been a lawyer for 20 plus years. And 3 years into that journey of practicing law, I just knew that this wasn't for me, but life, as you know, be lifing. Life was lifing. And because of the way my life was at that time, I decided to stay. So I stayed another 15 years. And then in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, when folks were trying to hold on to their jobs, I finally let it go and walked away from that profession. But I like to say that I get to use my voice in a different way. No longer in the legal space, but still advocating for people and helping others to find and use their voices and be able to share their messages on the stages and platforms that matter to them. So in a nutshell, that's what I do, whether that's as a TEDx coach, as a leadership consultant, as a success strategist, whatever hat I'm wearing, I'm using my voice in that way.
I love that. Y'all, she took a major leap of faith. Can we not just pass by that? Not only did she say she left her job, she left it in the pandemic when most people were very fearful. So kudos to you for your leap of faith. And you seem to be doing all right.
Amen. I'm grateful.
All right. So based on your experience, tell us some of the biggest mistakes that the STEM people like me, and for those that are listening, the STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. I have a STEM background, and I know we are brilliant. We have a lot of expertise, but sometimes I know we get in our own way and we get in our own heads, or maybe sometimes we don't think people want to hear what we have to say.
Yeah.
Tell us some, once they make the decision to okay, maybe I can do this. What are some mistakes that we typically will do before you have to fix it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And fun fact, my undergraduate degree is in biology. My minor was in chemistry. So I have that STEM background. So I know this question is important. A few things that come up with STEM folks, my people, is overwhelming the audience when we're speaking, overwhelming the audience with too many technical details. You, as the STEM professional, you have a ton of deep knowledge in your field. And so you know all the jargon, whereas sometimes the audience, not everyone in the audience, depending on the audience, knows that. And not everyone in the audience is an expert like you are. So be mindful of the jargon, the industry technical terms, and words and phrases that might confuse the audience or alienate the audience. So the technical details, that's number one. These are not in any order, by the way.
Oh, no, go ahead, girl. This is good, because I'm feel a little bit guilty sometimes, because you think other people, you think what's in your head, other people already know.
Right.
And you forget, it's just no, you know this.
You know it, yes. And the people that work with you know it, but not everyone does, right? And another thing is lack of storytelling, not incorporating story in your presentations, right? So again, the STEM presentations can sometimes focus heavily on data. All right, Dr. Michele, facts and figures, and neglect storytelling, neglect the power of storytelling. So being mindful of that and incorporating personal anecdotes, real life examples, or other types of narratives into your presentation. This can help make the presentation more relatable, more engaging, more memorable, and just have the audience connect with you and with your message. So that's two. I have two more.
No, go ahead. This is good. Because I did want to say one thing real quick about like the jargon, because I think I was at a conference and somebody kept saying something. I was just like, I don't know what that means. Like the acronyms.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I used to be a teacher and we were notorious for that.
Right.
Like we go from meeting to meeting. I'm like, well, we don't use it at our school. Like, what are you talking about? Instantly, like when people start doing that, I'm like, oh, you must not be talking to me. And now everybody got phones, proceeds to pull out phone and ignore you because you clearly not talking to me.
That's it. Right. And you pull out your phone, you're not thinking I'm going to pull out my phone and look this up all the time, because you only really, with a presentation, you can hook the audience in the first few seconds, less than a minute, really. And let's even say the first 2 minutes. But if you start using all this jargon and all these terms that people don't know, and you're not mindful, it means you're not considering your audience. If they pull out their phone, they're not necessarily going to be looking for what does this mean, and if they are looking for what does this mean, they've tuned you out anyway with what you're currently saying. So be mindful of that. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Right. By the time you pull that phone out, now you look, check your notifications.
Yes.
You forgot that you was at a presentation.
Absolutely. And I'm guilty of being that. I'm guilty of being on both sides. I remember when I first started speaking, and it was in the legal space, but I was working in the legal space, but I was speaking to an audience that was not lawyers. They were not lawyers. And I just was they tuned me out. And all the things that I'm saying here, I'm guilty of doing almost all of them, if not all. And on the flip side, I've been in the audience where I've checked out because I wasn't following. You didn't consider me when you were using those words and those phrases. So yeah. So
that is fantastic. Okay. Go ahead and tell us the rest, because I know the rest. They're like, okay, what else, girl?
All right. So how about visuals, right? So data is crucial in the STEM field, right? It's absolutely crucial. But relying only on the textual data or the numerical information without incorporating some sort of visual, that can feel like monotonous. It can feel overwhelming for the audience. And so, and I know you know this, I know you preach this and do this. So incorporating visuals such as charts, diagrams, graphs, whatever, some sort of visual to make the data just stand out, make it more accessible, understandable, and just visually appealing. So that's the third one. And then the last one is, it's kind of tied to what we just talked about in terms of engaging the audience. So STEM.
She might have beat us up a little more, y'all.
STEM presentations can sometimes feel one-sided, right? So where you're just simply talking at the audience without really carrying them along, without really actively engaging. So how can you engage the audience, right? If maybe ask a question and maybe listen for one or two answers. Or incorporate some sort of activity or some sort of discussion to involve the audience and make it less monotonous and more dynamic, more of an exchange, right? So those are the 4 things that I wanted to talk about in terms of STEM presentations and how to make them more engaging and connect with your audience.
I did not know you could engage your audience. I really thought it was like you guys are the fourth wall. And you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, you're not the only one. But let me say this, especially since the the pandemic, since the world shut down, and then we went into Zoom mode where everything was virtual, and people really got overwhelmed with staring at a screen and listening. So organizers, event organizers, speakers, people started looking for, how can we make this more engaging? And now that the world is opened back up and people are having events in person, we're still in that space of, how do we make this more engaging? So even in events where I'm speaking, oftentimes they'll ask, but even if they don't ask, I will say that here's how I'm going to carry the audience along. Here's how this is going to be an interactive. And they love that. They love interactive types of presentations because we have been just overwhelmed with information and meetings and just, so it's now, how can we do it in an interactive way?
That is so good. Emem said a lot of good things, and I'm going to touch on them. And she mentioned something about some mistakes she made. So we definitely got to circle back to hear a story about that. So you submitted grant application after grant application have come up empty, right? You thought you gave them everything that they're looking for. You answered all the questions, but it just doesn't seem to make the cut. Chances are you've been doing it wrong. But that is what we're here to show you here at Grant Success Unlocked. This workshop will tell you exactly what grant funders want and what grant reviewers are looking for, so you can give them an application that wows. We're going to show you how to quantify your impact, so that way it's a no-brainer to give you the money to further the mission and the vision that you have. Invite your colleagues, because this workshop is going to revolutionize how you write applications from here on out. I promise you, you do not want to miss it.
Register now at grantsuccessunlocked.com. That's grantsuccessunlocked.com.
Click the link now before seats fill up, and I'm going to see you there.
You are listening to Numbers Don't Lie on Cityscape Radio, where we are local and global.
Make sure you follow us on brownstoneworldwide.com, where you can check out the marketplace and Brownstone Living magazine that you can subscribe to today for only $5.99. You could also advertise in it for all my business owners. It's a steal going on right now. So make sure you head over to brownstoneworldwide.com to learn more about your advertising opportunities. And I'm your host, Dr. Michele. I have a company called Mogul Beginnings Data Consulting, and you can follow me on social media. I like Instagram and Facebook a lot at Mogul Beginnings, MOGUL Beginnings. You can chop it up with me online, but I like to talk with guests that really understand the power of data and how to integrate it in their fields, because I don't want y'all to think it's just me. Okay. It's not just me. There's so much use to implementing data in your business and into your nonprofit and even into your speaking event. Now, right on back to that speaking event, Emem. Okay. One thing I wanted to come back to was about, I think it left me. I'll circle back if I remember. Well, no, as I was listening, it sounded like you were just giving really great tips for anyone that wants to engage an audience, because I heard a lot of similarities of what you were saying compared to someone that's talking about, literally, I just heard about it at a conference this week about doing engaging videos. Like you said, in that first minute or two, you need to catch them. They literally said the same thing. Of course, it was like in the first couple seconds, you need to catch them, but it really is like pulling them in initially so they want to hear the rest of what you have to say. That's because right. We're just so used to people, like you said, talking at us and talking to us. We're literally selectively engaging on what we really want to hear and what we don't. Because it's like, if it sounds like something I heard before, okay. I'm guilty of doing that. If you say, okay, this me. If you say this, I've disconnected because I've heard it before, or you're boring, or you just lost me. So great tips, girl. I love it.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Okay. Now you mentioned you've made some mistakes before on the TEDx stage. Could you tell us a little more about your experience on TEDx, and maybe even like, how'd you get there in the first place?
Oh yeah. So did I make mistakes? Absolutely. So I can say today that I'm a 2-time TEDx speaker, and I've been invited to give a third one. We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
You go, girl.
Right now, I'm focused on helping others get there. But I can say I'm a 2-time TEDx speaker. But before I became a 2-time TEDx speaker, before I spoke on the TEDx stage the first time, did I make mistakes? Absolutely. So let me go back. About 10 years ago, I heard my first TEDx talk, I'd heard of TED Talks, and somebody sent me this TEDx video, and I was like, what is TEDx? Well, TEDx is a form of a TED Talk. It's just given, TEDx Talks are given locally by people, license holders under the TED umbrella. So I listened to this TEDx talk, and I'm just at the end of it like, oh my goodness, how can I help? How can I use my voice to impact somebody's life the way this man just did in his 18 minutes or less,
Wow.
TEDx talk? And so I was like, okay, but I'm not this, I'm not that. And so I put that to the side, that dream to the side, and was like, well, because I'm not, I'm not famous. All the things that I'm not is what I focused on.
Wow.
Fast forward several years later, actually 5 years later, I decided that, okay, let me go ahead and dust this TEDx dream off that I'd put on the shelf. Let me dust it off and let me go ahead and pursue this. And I applied, made all the mistakes, Dr. Michele, all of them. And so needless to say, and I applied to 3. One of the mistakes, and I can share some of the mistakes. One of the mistakes I made was applying last minute. Like, they give you a deadline and I'm like quarter to the deadline on the same day, and by this time they've already seen other applications by other people. And so even if your talk was good, even if my talk was going to be good, if somebody else was speaking on the broader topic, the same broad topic that I was speaking on, let's say I was going to talk about resilience, even though my perspective might have been different from somebody else's, but they want to diversify their audience, right? Mm-hmm. And their talks, I should say. And so if somebody else has given a pitch on resilience, they're gonna be like, okay, we already have a resilience speaker. Let's move on to something else.
Wow.
And so that was a mistake I made, and several other mistakes. So, but I applied again. So I applied again, and this time I applied across the pond in the UK, in England, and I got that yes. And it was a game changer, a life changer. It was the best experience. This was at the end of 2019, right before the coronavirus hit. And so, and it was just awesome. So yes, I am a TEDx speaker today, but I made all the mistakes. And even when I gave my first talk, I don't talk about this a lot, but when I gave my first talk, they want your talks to be 18 minutes or less.
Okay.
I went a little bit over. I went into the 19-minute mark, and really, that's a no-no. So I coach people now on all the mistakes that I made, and so they don't have to make those mistakes and just come out sharing their message on a platform that really is recognized all around the world, the TEDx stage, that red dot. So yeah, that's my answer to your question.
I didn't know that you wanted to be. I can't remember the last time I sat through like a full TEDx. I feel like I've only seen I usually watch clips.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was so short.
Oh yeah, it's short. And a lot of people struggle with that, especially if people who've been keynote speakers and get to speak for 30 minutes, an hour, 45 minutes, it's short. It's 18 minutes or less. And again, since the pandemic, they've shrunk that, not officially, but TEDx organizers will be like, yeah, it's 18 minutes or less, but we really emphasize the less, the or less part. So can you do 14 minutes? Yeah, my second talk was under 14 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But I mean, that makes sense given the times we're in. Like, people's attention spans are not what it used to be.
That's right.
I was actually thinking the other day, I was like, I think it's about time we start conditioning people to sit for longer periods of time. Seriously, because I'm just like, everything can't be microwave. Like, you know what I'm saying? Right. Like, at some point, we have to be okay with sitting down, learning, digesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's maybe it starts with these long movies again.
That's the teacher and the data scientist in you.
Honestly, I remember when they moved us to 90 minutes. Like, I went to school, we had 45-minute classes.
Yeah.
We didn't get them out. Perfect.
Yeah.
When I started teaching, they were 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like, what you want me to talk about for 90 minutes? And I hated it. I mean, it was long, but I'm like, I don't need that long. I hated it because it was like, I felt like I had to entertain these kids for 90 minutes. I'm like, okay, because I'm usually done in like 50. Like,
right.
What am I doing for 40 more minutes? That's my principal. I was like, can we ever? He was like, no. I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm stuck with the 90-minute block.
Well, see, and now you're saying we should condition ourselves to sit longer. So would you be interested in the 90-minute sit through?
Now, 90 minutes is a stretch for anything, honestly. Yeah. Like,
I
honestly,
agree.
90 minutes alone.
I agree.
That's about it.
I agree. No, I
but
agree.
Like, 18 minutes is very short. I'm like, okay, I'm cool with 30, especially if it's good. Like, oh, because you don't notice the time goes by when it's good.
Yeah. And so that's actually the thing. I think the TED organization, whatever research they did, they just found, I don't know how they ended on 18 instead of 20 or 15, but that's where they ended. That's where they landed. And they just found that it's possible to get a point across in 18 minutes or less. And so I've seen a TEDx talk that was 5 minutes and I understood what he was saying. He made his point. It was it is a great TEDx talk. So yeah, how can we be more concise and still get our talks across? And that's why a lot of times you'll see, even at conferences or in other types of presentations, they might ask the speaker to give a TED style talk. And that's one of the things they're asking for. How can you condense it and still get your point across? Yeah,
that's good, because we do like to ramble sometimes.
Oh yeah.
If people get that microphone, they don't know what to do with themselves.
You've been behind the numbers for so long. It's like, okay, let me
like know. I get to say something. Calm down. Keep it short. Great. Okay, that makes sense. So I'm not gonna say I'm walking back what I'm saying, but I totally get, like, being able to make your point and do it concisely. That makes total sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So my next question, because I feel like you've been answering it, but I want to make sure my audience really understands. What is I don't want to say the value, but like, why should one pursue the TEDx stage out of all the stages they could speak on? Like, why this one?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So TEDx, so I assume that your audience is an audience of people that have messages to share with the world, right? And there really is no other platform. First of all, I don't work for TED. I'm not affiliated with them in that way. I just love what they do and I listen to TEDx talks for fun and to learn. So, but there's really no other platform that gives you the kind of exposure and visibility that a TEDx stage does, whether that's in person, whether that's online. So speaking at a TEDx event, I like to say that even though the day after I gave my TEDx talk, or the day after my TEDx talk went live on their YouTube channel, I was the same person that I was the day before, but people treated, and still do treat me differently, and treat other TEDx speakers differently. And it's not because I'm some special snowflake. It really is that the power of the TEDx stage, the power of the TED, it's well respected all around the world, right? So it gives you that exposure, that visibility, that credibility, that, okay, if a TEDx organizer saw fit to bring this person on their stage, then there must be something worth listening to. And I'll say, for example, with one of my clients, last year around this time, she applied to a TEDx event and they got almost 400 applications, and they narrowed it down to 30 people that they brought in for the second step, which was an interview. And out of the 30 people, they narrowed it down to 12. And she was one of the 12. So it's like, they go through this rigorous process where they get lots of ideas that people want to share on their stage, but they can only pick so many each year. And so there's something to be said about that, right? So it gives you that credibility, that visibility, that thought. It establishes you as a thought leader in your niche, in the area in which you speak. So yeah. So
That's
get a TEDx
powerful.
stage, folks.
That's good. I don't think I ever really thought about it, because sometimes you just think a speaking engagement is a speaking engagement.
And you know, a speaking engagement, listen, wherever you speak, whatever audience you speak in front of, it's an honor, it's a privilege. People don't have to give you their ears, their time. So yes, it is. I'm just saying that the TEDx stage, for whatever reason, the world treats it a little bit differently. And so somebody in, think of the most remote part of the world where they still have internet. Somebody in India, Africa, Asia, somewhere else other than India, Australia, any part of the world can listen to your talk, not because they found you in your on your website or
Yeah.
your social media, but because they found TED or TEDx. Yeah, so
That's powerful.
yeah.
Mine is blown today. Okay. I know my audience is too. So my final question is, what advice do you have for people that want to get started with this? Like, what steps should they take?
Yeah, I think there's several things that you could do, but I think the first step is coming up with your idea worth spreading. That's the tagline for TED and TEDx, ideas worth spreading. An idea worth spreading is something that you share that somebody listening in the audience hears and is like, oh my goodness, this is great. Let me go share with, you know, my friend, my neighbor, my sister, my cousin. Same way that somebody, a friend of mine, shared that first TEDx talk that I heard 10 years ago with me. So come up with your idea worth spreading. Now, for all the people who are already speaking on stages, this is not the opportunity to speak about what you're currently speaking on. This is not an opportunity to share that keynote that people love so much, because really they want fresh new perspectives. So they're very territorial is maybe the word, but they want to hear fresh new ideas, not something that, you know, they can go and search and find already out there by somebody else or by you, right? So come up with, what is it that you want to share? And there's a whole process to doing that. People tend to think, oh, well, then I have nothing. No, you do. There's just a process in going through that. I bet you do.
That's good. That's good. That makes sense. You want originality. I
Absolutely.
love that. So I think that was great, because it leads us right on to, like, how can people work with you? Because you clearly get people to the stage. Because if I'm not wrong, the people that have sought you out and put in the work and do what you say do have made it to that stage.
Absolutely. Yes.
So what's your success rate again? In
Dr.
counting. I just
So far, my success rate is 100%. As you said, of people that put in the work and do. Now, that doesn't mean that that's 100% the first time you apply.
Yeah,
right? I can't say that. It didn't happen for me.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do the work and go through the process, yeah, so far, knock on wood, my success rate is 100%. I'm grateful. And let me say this, I have the most brilliant clients.
Aww.
I was talking to one on Friday, and I cannot wait for his talk to hit the world. And so I get to learn, as a coach, I get to learn a lot more from clients who share their brilliance. So how to work with me would just reach out to me. I typically have a masterclass or a 5-day challenge coming up soon. Depending on when you see this, there might be one coming up soon, but just reach out to me. I'm Emem Washington on all platforms, EMEM, and I'll be happy to put you in the loop and let you know when I have something else planned. Or if you're just ready, you would just know that you're ready to work with me. You don't need to go through the masterclass or the 5-day challenge. Let me know. I'm happy to do that as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. It has been a pleasure. I've learned something and I'm like, okay, let me get my fresh idea.
Oh, I know you've got plenty.
There's something up there that the world needs to know.
Yeah.
So thank you for educating and just blessing our audience. Thank you guys for listening in. You've been listening to Numbers Don't Lie with me, Dr. Michele, on KCCR The Brownstone. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at Brownstone Worldwide and check us out at brownstoneworldwide.com. You can follow me, Dr. Michele, on social media at Mogul Beginnings. That's MOGUL Beginnings, spelled the regular way. And until next time, guys, have a fantastic rest of your week. And we will see you guys. Well, you're going to hear from us soon. See you guys.
Mogul Beginnings Data Consulting helps nonprofits and small businesses strategize, optimize, and scale by unleashing the power of their data. So if you're ready for your data to be unleashed to help your business tell beautiful stories, connect today by logging on to mogulbeginnings.com. That's mogulbeginnings.com.